All right, so ready to dive into some roller coasters and cotton candy?
Sounds fun.
Today we're doing a deep dive into, you know, Wonderla holidays, LTDs, Q2, FY25 financial results. We got all their official reports and presentations ready to go, and I guess to uncover what's really going on behind the scenes at one of India's leading amusement park
Yeah,
operators.
Wonderla is super fascinating. I mean, what's cool is they're not just a single park. They've got like this whole network. They're running 4 parks in Kochi, Bengaluru, Hyderabad, and Bhubaneswar. Plus, they have a resort in Bengaluru. And get this, they have another park being built in Chennai. Pretty ambitious.
Yeah, ambitious is right.
Uh,
Okay, so our mission today is to figure out how Wonderla is doing financially, what's driving their numbers, up or down, and what it all means for their future, not just for Wonderla, but also for, anyone who might be thinking about investing.
Exactly. To get started, we should look at the foundation Wonderla has built.
Yeah.
So since they opened back in 2000, they've had over 43 million visitors, and they've earned over INR 4,830 million in revenue. That's a pretty clear sign that they're, a major player in the Indian amusement park scene.
Those are some really impressive numbers. Okay, so zooming in on their performance, in Q2 of FY25, their revenue clocked in at INR 712 million, which is actually a 10% dip compared to the same time last year. But here's where it gets interesting. For the first half of FY25, their total revenue was INR 2,487 million. So what's the story here? Is this a sign of trouble or just a temporary thing?
Well, to understand that, we need to dig a little deeper into something called EBITDA. You can think of it as a measure of the company's profitability from its core operations. Now, in Q2, their adjusted EBITDA took a pretty big hit. It dropped by 82% year-on-year to INR 47 million.
Wow.
Yeah, you might be thinking, whoa, that's a red flag.
Yeah.
And you'd be right to wonder, but keep in mind that Wonderla just launched a new park in Bhubaneswar. And, well, launching a new park, that takes a lot of money up front. And that can definitely impact a company's profits, at least temporarily.
Okay, that makes sense. It's like if you open a new store or something, you're going to have a lot of those initial costs, but hopefully it pays off in the long run.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. Now, another important piece of the puzzle is ARPU, which stands for average revenue per user. Basically, how much Wonderla is making on average from each visitor. In Q2, their ARPU was INR 1,414, which is just a 2% drop compared to last year. And get this, for the first half of FY25, their ARPU actually increased by 2%.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So even though their overall revenue dipped in Q2, they're actually keeping their revenue per visitor pretty steady and even growing it in the long run.
So it's a more complicated story than it first appears. Sounds like Wonderla's strategically balancing short-term costs with long-term growth. But let's dig a little deeper. Wonderla has multiple parks, each with, its own unique story. So how did each park actually perform individually?
That's a great question. And it gets to the heart of, how all these pieces fit together. Well, Bengaluru, one of their established parks, saw a revenue dip in both Q2 and the first half of FY25. Hyderabad held its own, with revenue staying relatively stable. Then we have Bhubaneswar, the brand new park, which just opened in 2024. It's still super early, so we can't make any big conclusions about its performance yet.
Okay, so each park kind of has its own unique factors influencing its performance. What about, the bigger picture? What are some of the key ingredients that have fueled Wonderla's overall success?
Well, one key ingredient is their strategic location. They've cleverly positioned their parks near major cities with high GDP per capita, which means they're tapping into a larger pool of potential visitors, people with, disposable income, who are looking for entertainment. They're not just building parks anywhere. They're choosing locations with the most potential for success.
Smart. They're being where the action is. But it's not just about location, right? What else sets Wonderla apart?
Here's where it gets really interesting. They design and manufacture a lot of their rides in-house. 30–40% are made right there in their workshops. This gives them a huge advantage. They can tailor rides to local preferences, and they can keep those costs in check, which is key in a competitive market.
Brilliant. It's like they have their own Willy Wonka factory, but for, roller coasters and stuff.
Exactly. And they're committed to, a safe and enjoyable experience for their visitors. They've earned a bunch of awards and certifications for their safety and hygiene standards, which helps build trust with visitors and makes their brand stronger. When you're taking your family to an amusement park, safety is probably at the top of your mind.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
You want to know that your kids are going to be safe. It sounds like Wonderla is hitting all the right notes: location, unique rides, and a commitment to safety. But how about their financial health? Are they managing their money well?
Yeah, one of the things that stands out about Wonderlust is their financial stability. They're in a really good position with the net cash position, meaning they have more cash on hand than debt. And they've also got a consistently high operating cash flow to EBITDA ratio. I know that might sound a bit complicated,
Yeah.
but basically it means they're generating enough cash in their operations to cover their expenses and to invest in future growth.
Okay, so their financial engine is humming along nicely. What else are they doing to ensure they can, keep growing in a sustainable way?
One thing that really impresses me is their asset light approach. They're not tying up all their money in fixed assets,
Hmm.
which gives them more flexibility.
Yeah.
And they reinvest their profits right back into the business, keeping their parks fresh and exciting for visitors. They're always adding new rides, upgrading things, and just making sure the guest experience is really good.
So they're constantly evolving, keeping things interesting, to keep attracting those new visitors. What are some examples of the new attractions they're investing in?
Well, look at some of their latest additions. The Cornetto, the Twister, and the Skytail. These aren't your average amusement park rides. They're really pushing the boundaries
Hmm.
and offering thrilling experiences that keep people coming back.
So they're not resting on their laurels. They're innovating and trying new things all the time.
Exactly. And behind all of this is a really experienced leadership team, with a deep understanding of this industry. Their managing director actually came up with the whole Wonderla concept. That kind of vision is really invaluable.
It's like they've got, a seasoned captain at the helm.
Yeah, exactly. And when we look at Wonderla's, key strategies, it's clear they're focusing on a few things. Expanding with new parks, like the one in Chennai. That's a big undertaking.
Yeah.
And they're really focused on the customer experience, going beyond just the rides to create like a truly immersive and enjoyable day out.
It sounds like they're really thinking about the whole experience, creating an entire, entertainment world for their visitors. But going back to that new park in Chennai for a sec, that's a big move, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. And, it shows their ambition. Expanding into a new market like Chennai is a big investment. But it's a huge opportunity, too. They can tap into a whole new group of customers.
So they're playing the long game, making moves that could, pay off big down the road. And I'm definitely starting to see why they're a company to watch in this industry. But let's take a step back and look at some of the specifics, some metrics that they shared about, like park performance.
That's a great idea. Numbers can sometimes tell a story that words just can't. Let's start by looking at their average revenue per user, or ARPU. For the first half of FY25, there are some interesting trends there.
So we were just talking about ARPU, that average revenue per visitor. What are the trends looking like?
So for the first half of FY25, Wonderland saw a 2% increase in their overall ARPU compared to the same period last year, which is actually pretty impressive considering the dip in revenue we discussed. It suggests that despite some, potential headwinds, they're still doing a good job with their pricing. And they're even, squeezing a little more revenue out of each visitor.
Interesting. But you mentioned that, each park has its own story. Did ARPU increase across all parks, or are there some variations?
You're right, there are definitely some interesting variations. When you look at each park, for example, Kochi and Hyderabad, both saw their ARPU jump up by 6% year on year in the first half of FY25.
Wow, 6% is a big jump. What's driving that kind of growth in those specific parks?
Probably a mix of factors. Maybe they've introduced new attractions that are, drawing bigger crowds, or they might have implemented some clever pricing strategies that encourage people to spend more during their visit. It could also just be a reflection of the local economy in those areas, or tourism trends.
Okay, so those parks are performing well. What about Bengaluru and Bhubaneswar? How did their ARPU look?
Bengaluru saw a 4% dip in ARPU year on year for the same period. Could be a number of reasons for that. Maybe they're facing more competition from other, entertainment options in the city. Or there might be some economic factors impacting spending habits. And Bhubaneswar, well, remember, it's the newest park. It just opened in 2024. So it's way too early to tell what their ARPU will look like long term. It takes time to build that, momentum and really establish a good revenue stream for a new park.
That makes sense. Just like a new restaurant, right? It takes time to build a customer base.
Yeah, exactly. Now, switching gears a bit, let's look at footfall. Basically, just how many people are visiting the parks.
Footfall. Yeah, that's a good indicator of, how popular a place is. What's the story for Wonderla?
So in both Q2 FY25 and the first half of FY25, they saw a 9% decrease in overall footfall compared to, same periods last year.
9%. Should we be worried?
It's definitely worth noting. But again, we need to consider the context. Launching Bhubaneswar could be playing a role here. New parks often take some time to attract those crowds. It's kind of like opening a store in a new neighborhood. Might take people a while to find it.
Right. People need to know it's there.
Exactly. And plus, we can't forget about the overall economic climate. Consumer spending habits are always changing, and that can definitely impact places like amusement parks. If people aren't feeling confident, they might not spend as much on, leisure.
Okay, so a lot of factors at play, but let's not just focus on the negatives. What are some of the strategies Wonderla is using to, deal with these challenges and maybe even find some opportunities?
Well, one thing they're really focused on is the whole entertainment experience. They're not just about rides. They want to be a destination, for families, groups, anyone looking for a fun day out.
So what does that look like in practice? How are they making that happen?
Well, first of all, they have a wide variety of, rides and attractions to appeal to different people. They've got thrill rides for the adrenaline junkies, gentle rides for families with young kids, and even water parks to cool off.
So something for everyone.
Yeah, pretty much. And they've got resorts too, like the one in Bengaluru. So people can stay overnight,
Well,
It makes
yeah.
it more of an immersive experience. And it also gives Wonderla another source of revenue.
Smart. It's like a mini vacation.
Exactly. And they've thought about everything. They've got tons of dining options, from quick snacks to sit-down restaurants.
You don't even have to leave the park to eat.
Right. They're really creating a one-stop shop for entertainment.
Going above and beyond to make sure people have a good time. What other strategic initiatives are they working on?
They're also working on expanding their business and, their brand recognition. We talked about the new park in Chennai. And they're targeting, cities with high GDP per capita, like Chennai, to tap into new markets with a lot of potential.
Not afraid to take some risks and invest in their future.
Definitely not. And it's not just about expansion. They're committed to improving their existing parks, too. They're always adding new rides and attractions, upgrading facilities. They know they need to keep things fresh.
It's all about staying relevant, right?
Yeah.
Giving people a reason to come back. What about their marketing? How are they getting the word out?
They're using a good mix of, traditional and digital marketing. They have a strong presence on social media, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, engaging with their target audience, promoting their stuff.
So they're meeting people where they are.
Yeah. And they're not just relying on digital either.
Yeah.
They use traditional media too, like TV and print ads. And they organize events. It's a good way to reach a wider audience.
Sounds like they're doing everything right. But what about their finances? How are they managing all of this?
That's a key question. Their approach to financial management is actually one of their strengths. Let's talk about some of the things they're doing to ensure sustainable growth.
So we've talked about all the things that Wonderla is doing right. But even the best amusement park can't control everything. What are some of the, outside forces that could affect them?
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's you're on a roller coaster. There are going to be some ups and downs you just can't predict. One of the biggest things for Wonderla is the economy in India. Stuff like inflation, consumer confidence, how much money people have to spend. Those things all have a huge impact on, leisure activities, especially amusement parks.
Right. If you're worried about paying bills, an amusement park is probably not, a top priority.
Exactly. Understanding those bigger economic trends is really important for, predicting what might happen, what challenges or opportunities might pop up. And then there's tourism, both domestic and international.
Oh, right. Tourists love amusement parks.
Totally. And Wonderla's parks are in great spots for that,
Oh.
near major cities. So any changes in tourism, like fewer people traveling, that can directly impact how many people show up.
So fewer tourists could mean fewer visitors for Wonderla. It's all connected.
For sure. And then on the flip side, if tourism goes up, Wonderla could see a lot more visitors. It's a balancing act. And speaking of competition, we can't forget about that.
Right. Every business has to deal with competition. What's the amusement park scene like in India?
It's getting pretty competitive, honestly. The Indian amusement park industry is growing. And there are more companies trying to, get their share. So Wonderla is not just competing with the older parks. They also have to worry about new ones popping up.
So they got to stay on their toes.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where their strengths come in. Their ride design and manufacturing that focus on safety and the different experiences they offer. Those things give them an edge.
It sounds like they're prepared for the competition. But what about the amusement park industry as a whole? Any big trends we should know about?
Hmm, that's a good question. One of the big things is this demand for, like, immersive, high-tech experiences. People don't just want basic rides anymore. They want to be wowed by technology, special effects, interactive stuff. Imagine, like, virtual reality roller coasters or augmented reality games built into the park.
Wow, it's like stepping into another world.
Exactly. And Wonderla is definitely paying attention. They're investing in new technologies to, create those unique experiences.
So they're keeping up with the times.
Yeah. Another big trend is sustainability. People care about the environment, right? And they want businesses to be responsible.
So it's about having fun, but doing it the right way.
Exactly. And Wonderla is on board with that. They've got a bunch of sustainability initiatives, saving energy, managing water, reducing waste. They're even encouraging their staff and visitors to, like, be more eco-friendly.
That's great to hear. So with all these factors and trends, what's the outlook for Wonderla? What are the key takeaways?
Well, even with all the challenges, it seems like Wonderla is in a good position to keep growing. They have a strong brand, those well-placed parks, a focus on innovation, and they're smart with their money. All of that gives them a solid base.
They can handle whatever comes their way.
Yeah. And remember, they're really focused on customer experience. New technologies and being sustainable, those are things that matter to people.
Seems like they have a bright future.
I think so. They're a really dynamic company with a clear vision. They're always trying new things, really trying to make something special.
This has been a really cool look into Wonderla. We've talked about their financials, their strategies, and the big trends in the amusement park industry. What a ride.
It has been. I hope our listeners learned something new about Wonderla.
Me too. Everyone should keep an eye on this company. They're always changing, innovating, making magic. What are your final thoughts for our listeners?
I think the biggest thing is Wonderla isn't afraid to, like, take risks and think big. They're pushing the limits of what's possible in amusement parks. But they're not forgetting their values. Safety, quality, sustainability. That's a great combination. I'm excited to see what they do next.
Couldn't agree more. It's been fun exploring Wonderla's world. And remember, everyone, knowledge is power. We hope this deep dive gave you some, valuable insights. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and keep exploring.